child can run. You might remember that first time that you ran, you felt the air accelerate over your hair and your ears, and you thought, wow, that's a rush.
It's not about going fast, it's about sort of being fast. It's about kind of elevating the human experience into places that we've never been able to go before.
You don't feel the car very subtly, very gently bringing you back into kind of control. This, I think, is the biggest change of the hypercar era, is the accessibility of 1,000 horsepower or whatever it is.
I'm not going to say no to an open runway in a 1,000 horsepower car, so we go down, we go about 180. Then he tells me to slam on the brakes and take my hands off the wheel while I'm doing it in a car I've never driven, in a place I've never been, going 180 miles an hour. But if the guy who has his name on the car is telling me to do something, I'm going to do it.
Capturing that imagination, the spirit of what the enthusiast wants and what an engineer wants and what an artist wants, it's really at the cutting edge of everything. And that's what makes it so amazing. It's beyond art, it's beyond engineering, it's beyond sport, it's beyond racing. It's all of those things together.
So as long as one manufacturer is making a car beyond what anyone else can, a child looking at it will say, something better is possible.
Il bello di guidare è appunto il fatto di poter prendere questo volante e cercare con questo volante di comunicare con la strada, di sentire tutta una serie di emozioni che vanno a soddisfare in qualche modo i cinque sensi.
I think things that are kind of impersonated and embodies positive emotions and that you work closely with and put your love into, they kind of come alive. And I think when you're in a car and it's done the proper way, like most race cars are, and they really feel like an extension of yourself.
What is a hypercar? There may be no better way to ignite an argument than to try and define what a hypercar is. A car whose only purpose is to inspire awe in every aspect. The fastest, the most powerful, the rarest, the most striking, the most thoughtfully designed, the most cutting edge. And even then, that definition only takes us part of the way.
the hypercar, like the supercar before it, is the expression in automotive form of tomorrow, today.
These cars do things that, from a powertrain and energy efficiency standpoint, that was science fiction 10 years ago.
It's the car that's the ultimate expression of what they can do with technology.
Really, it's like creating the Iron Man suit as a car.
A car whose price tag pales only in comparison to the desire it provokes among those who can afford it.
They're big projects. There are hundreds of millions, if not billions of dollars on the line. They are very expensive vehicles to produce.
A price class above what anyone else has ever made before.
It's the kind of hubris that we tend to do as humans when we want to take something to the ultimate level. The hypercar is really the ultimate expression of intellect and ego. It's where those two things meet. It's the manifestation of our human instinct to be superhuman, to have that Iron Man suit. You know, as a philosopher might say, it's to recreate God on Earth.
But again, it's also about an automotive global sausage fest between these major manufacturers, and I don't think there's any question that part of it is just sheer ego.
So it's brilliant. So you've got Ferrari waving its bits about, and McLaren going, "I got a bigger one than you," and then you've got Porsche saying, "We got two."
Some of the biggest players in the sports car world have bet enormous budgets and their reputations on building hypercars. The Porsche 918, the Ferrari LaFerrari, the McLaren P1. These brands are locked in a battle to define what a hypercar is. And the risk is very real. After all, hypercars sell not in the tens of thousands or even thousands, but in the hundreds or less.
There is a market, or there is a business model for small, highly technical, super sports car manufacturing that doesn't have to grow beyond 50 cars a year. You don't have to be GM to succeed in the car business. You don't have to even be Porsche or Ferrari.
It's just amazing looking at these huge stands. They spend a fortune on these things for 2 weeks and then they tear them down again. It's just shocking in a way, I guess.
Christian von Koenigsegg's firm isn't a global multinational corporation, but the vehicles that bear his name are globally known for helping define what a hypercar is.
Christian Koenigsegg is one of the finest people I've ever met, an intuitive engineer, not a trained engineer, but a person whose intuition is incredible. And in his own quiet way, he is changing the car business.
Ängelholm, Sweden is like most northern European beach towns. It's quiet and cold. But to sports car fans, Ängelholm is synonymous with Koenigsegg Automotive, a company founded by a man whose desire to build the world's best sports cars reaches all the way back to his childhood.
For as far as I can remember, I've been totally fascinated by cars. When I was about 5 years old, I went to the movies with my father and saw a Norwegian stop-motion animation movie, which is really fantastically made, and it's about a bicycle repairman who built his own car on a Norwegian mountaintop to race in kind of a Le Mans-style race against the established teams and cars and drivers, and of course won. And this is kind of a fairy tale story, but it's really made in a fantastic way, and it's still shown in cinemas in Norway today. On every Christmas Eve they show it on television in Norway. It's kind of a national icon there. But I got really intrigued by this movie and said that looks like a lot of fun, creating and building your own car with a lot of unique inventions and then go compete with it against the establishment. So I remember that point very clearly, that I felt I wanted to do what that bicycle repairman was doing, just build his own car with his little team and do something fantastic with it.
It's a dream shared by many, like him, who grew up worshiping the automobile. But the difference? Christian has done just that.
This is an old picture from when we built the first prototype. This was before this car, and this was in '96. This is Christian and his co-workers working on this car. This was in Olofström, where Christian started the company and stayed there. He stayed there for 2 years, preparing the first prototype. I actually lived in Olofström as well with Christian during this period, and here's a picture of us back then.
I think it was the 12th of August 1994. I said, now I'm going to build cars. So then I did everything, designing, drawing, creating some kind of business idea, plan around it, a development plan, and then I started finding people around me who could help out. Found a chassis engineer, and I found a designer who could help me make a model of my sketches. But it took me 2 years from the day I decided to do it to have a full running car prototype.
With every new high-performance iteration, Christian von Koenigsegg and his team at Engelholm keep pushing the hypercar envelope further. But it's his latest creation that he hopes will really leave a mark. It's the Koenigsegg 121. The name refers to the perfect power-to-weight ratio. Horsepower to kilograms of curb weight. For every 1 kilogram the car weighs, its engine produces 1 horsepower.
This is the first prototype 121 car that we're going to showcase at Geneva Motor Show. So this is the company test car. So as all other show cars from Koenigsegg, they start out as a show car and then they become our test car and demo car.
It will be the first production sports car with 1 megawatt of power. That's 1,341 horsepower in a car that weighs 1,341 kilograms.
Usually we spend a lot of energy and time making our cars elegant. In this case, as it's going to be a road car which is also very much focused on racetrack driving, we let aerodynamics take the upper hand over elegance. So it's going to look very racy on the normal road, but very at home at the racetrack. It might seem obvious, of course, but the entire car is made out of carbon fiber. The monocoque, the chassis, the bodywork, all the aero features, everything is carbon fiber on this car, even the wheels. So as before with our Agera R and our more normal cars, we have the most carbon fiber intense road car on the planet. And that makes it lighter, stronger, stiffer than any other car.
Carbon fiber is an interesting one because in so many ways it is revolutionizing our industry and it will continue to do so, but it isn't the answer to all problems. There's a feeling in the industry at times that you could solve third world debt with carbon fiber. You can't. It's brilliant because it's moldable, because it's so light, and because it's strong when it's moved in the direction it wants to be moved. Of course, it's not in the direction it doesn't want to be moved, and that has to be remembered. In terms of forming the structure of a car, what we'd call a tub, it's genius.
Almost all parts of a Koenigsegg is made out of carbon fiber, and we only use the most extreme type of carbon fiber material available, which is called prepreg. It's the same that's been used in Formula One and fighter jets and spaceships and things like that.
Exotic materials like carbon fiber were once used solely in the realms of aerospace and motorsport. But by the 1980s, a new paradigm would emerge, and it would change everything.
In the past, the top of the top was the supercar. Everything else was a sports car or a super sports car.
Supercars were sports cars incorporating race technology that were street legal. The F40 was street legal.
So the F40 was a car that came together where Ferrari used all of its racing resources, where they cared about the aerodynamics. They put it through the wind tunnel and they made sure that it had the, the downforce to make it stable on the road at 200 miles an hour. The F40 was a really groundbreaking car, even though it was sort of built on the 288 GTO, which was the car I had on my wall. It was like my personal favorite supercar of the time. The F40 took that platform and just kind of threw it up the technology ladder and said it's racing and road cars at a level that nobody had seen really before. The 10 years before the F40 came out were a hugely fertile time for racing technology. You had giant advances in aerodynamics. Material science had come a really long way. You had materials like, composites, carbon fiber, Kevlar, really lightweight materials.
In the early 90s, the Ferrari F40 brought Formula One racing technology to the street. A decade later, the next wave in hypercars would focus on absolute power and straight-line speed. Enter the Bugatti Veyron, the first series production car to break 250 miles per hour.
I think we created this segment of hypercars. We were the very first to develop a car with a top speed of over 400, and we were the first with a car with a performance of more than 1,000 horses, and we were the first to go in a price segment above €1 million.
The Veyron is the application of technology against psychology.
If you're able to buy one of these cars, it's not your first car, it's not your second car, it's not your 10th car, it's probably your 100th car in your collection. And being able to throw down millions of dollars really means nothing to you.
This was a step change in the way people felt about an investment in a car. And people were used to spending millions on yachts or spending millions on aeroplanes.
You have to have a plane situation to be one of the people that has this car. You have to be able to ask somebody, one of your friends, and say, what's your plane situation?
It took some time that people understood that the substance of the car is really worth and justifies the price of over $1 million.
It is completely unnecessary, but I mean, our car is not made for transportation from A to B. Our car is an A to A car. It is like you buy beautiful clothes. It's like you want to go for the best. What the Veyron does, giving the customer the possibility of driving in a speed category where he has not been with his supercars before, obviously left something to desire for the other manufacturers.
Other players in this arena, they actually are very thankful to us that we opened this field of cars of above a price tag of $1 million. And for them, this also opens a market and opens the possibility to build ultra sports cars.
Koenigsegg headquarters occupies a base once used by the Swedish Air Force. Runways, from which fighter pilots once took to the skies, patrolling Sweden's sovereign perimeter in jets mainly built by Saab, still cross the property.
The guys here, they try to stop the Germans from flying here, helping the aircraft from US and from England. And this first division, they always started early in the morning when the mist was still there. And everybody just heard them start, and they heard them land. They couldn't see them. So they said they must be ghosts. So that's That's it's taken up as the division badge.
They came to us with great pride and showed us their ghost symbol and asked us, would you do us the honor to put this on your cars? It would be a shame for it just to die just because we have to shut down. And you're doing, it's something very different, but it's still kind of extreme, fast-moving, fighter jet-like kind of creature. So we would be very happy if you would put this on your car. So we said, with great honor, we accepted their symbol, and ever since we've been putting a ghost on each car we've built. Every car we build in that factory will have a ghost. If we build cars elsewhere, we will not put the ghost on the cars because they're not in that premises. So we're out at the Koenigsegg runway, which has been very instrumental for us in the creation of our cars and what we do. So our factory is actually a former fighter jet squadron hangar, and here we can go 24/7, any day, any time, to test whatever we want to test with very little planning. As soon as we come up with an idea for an engine tweak, a gearbox tweak, brake pads, brake discs, aerodynamics, whatever really, we can just go out and test. And that's quite unusual even for large car manufacturers to have that opportunity. And that has really shaped what we're doing, and it's the reason why our cars can be so extreme as they are, as we anytime can go out and test drastically.
While the Koenigsegg team has yet to finish their first one-to-one hypercar, one of the biggest names in the global automotive market is already in production with a hypercar of their own. Porsche's legacy of high-performance cars spans 6 decades. But as the first mover in unproven territory, Porsche is shouldering a big technological risk. A hybrid electric hypercar. At a factory in Stuttgart, Germany, Porsche has planned a run of 918 cars built at a rate of 4 per day. In the hypercar market, that quantity is unprecedented.
Are these big, risky decisions? When we get to the big car companies, the proper car companies, the Porsche, McLaren, the Ferrari, that's different. The Porsche is the riskiest, because the Porsche is using more complicated technologies. It's a much more complicated calibration device, and it's coming from a brand that requires a higher level of finish and development, let's say. I'm not demeaning the other two, but the Porsche has to meet all the standards of durability of a Boxster. There's lots of rich people in the world now, but to sell 918 when there's another 2 hypercars, 3 hypercars on sale at the same time is a real gamble.
918 cars, nearly triple what Porsche's closest rivals have planned to build, and each one with a price tag of just under $1 million. And they would go on to sell every single one. Here at the Formula One circuit in Austin, Texas, Porsche factory driver Patrick Long is behind the wheel of a 918 Spider for the first time.
Yeah, the beauty of this 918 is that you're dealing with a lot of aerodynamic downforce, so that initial attack on the brake is similar to the race car, and you're able to do that with some added help from ABS and hybrid charging, that generation of electricity really helps in stopping the car.
The most stunning feature is its packaging density. It's the same size as a Carrera GT. It has four-wheel steering, all-wheel drive, a very elaborate multi-stage hybrid system with a crazy battery. But you can't get a postage stamp under the skin anywhere because every millimeter is filled with something.
The man behind the 918 project is Dr. Frank Walliser, who was able to take the 918 from concept to production car in only 4 years.
Frank Walliser, what a great guy. Always smiling, under massive pressure in 918, massive pressure. You know, Porsche won't thank me for saying it, but it was a project that wasn't that loved internally. It caused massive strife, it was expensive. Did they want to make it? Should it have been in a hybrid? They were under huge pressure, and Frank marshaled the whole thing brilliantly.
And we really started with the development in, let me say, October 2010. And we had around 200 people together, starting on a project, working on everything. We had a highly motivated team that had a clear target. We want to make the best super sports car of the world.
When I think about the 918, I think it is perhaps the most technically complicated car that will ever be built. To get everything in a beautiful enveloping shape that's also air efficient, that you've got room for the struts, it's insane. The thing is insane.
Porsche always starts with racing, right? So Porsche starts with what works on the racetrack. What can we learn on the racetrack that we can apply to the road cars, and what, in some cases, do we learn from the road cars that we can apply to the racetrack?
We could really carry over a lot of technology from racing now to a street car, and definitely will come from this street car then to other street cars down, and just makes it interesting and yeah, important for us. It's an important car for Porsche.
But what's happened is, as they've developed these hybrid packages, they found so much more performance from them. And they found a way of augmenting torque, of creating a new way of building performance cars. And I think the discovery process has been enlightening. You know, watching Frank Walliser of Porsche go through his battles visually as I met him over the 3-year period. You know, he started out going, what do I do with this electricity? And then at the very end, he's confidently saying, this car is faster round a track because it's a hybrid.
But okay, competition is always nice. It shows you it's the best what you can get. You know who's best, and it's objective. And I think with our car, with the layout of the car, considering the fuel consumption, the performance on the Nürburgring, day-to-day usability, it's definitely the best package.
The people just feels like it was just plonked on here from another planet to me, and I love that. I just stood behind it at night with lights shining in the back of it. It's just completely porous, and it's tiny, and it's small, and I think so much of that appeals. I think you need to see the effect this has on a crowd of tourists as they come out of the Yas Marina Hotel to understand how important the motor car is in our lives. And this is the ultimate expression of a motor car, and even if you don't like cars or not interested in them, when you see that shape, you're drawn to it. These are magnetic objects that, alongside things like space shuttles and very fast fighter jets, represent the ultimate expression of what human beings can do with the materials that we drag out of the ground.
We obviously add the power and torque from the electric motor to give additional headline performance, but where the car is totally transformed is by using the hybrid power, the electric motor power, to torque fill. The only thing that comes close is a Formula One car.
McLaren developed the P1 at its cutting-edge technology center in southeast England. Designed by world-famous architect Norman Foster, the MTC is home to McLaren's Formula One team, which is based just a few steps away from where McLaren's road cars are designed and built. Company boss Ron Dennis is said to have a particular eye for detail. And so McLaren cars reflect the sensibility of the place in which they're built.
This production line is the P1 production line, and at the moment we're building the P1 production cars, the 375 cars, and also the P1 GTRs. So we're making a track variant of the car for customers to play to their heart's content on the circuit. It really is about the best technology. Our target for the P1 to produce the best driver's car, the best technology that was available on the day.
The McLaren P1 is a savage automobile. It has the brightest response of any of the three cars. It has the most, even though LaFerrari doesn't have a seat and you're sitting in the tub, the P1 is, I would say, probably has the quickest reaction time, but it's mostly just light. It feels like a titanium foil or something. I mean, it's just an amazing car.
So P1 is about ultimate performance, ultimate drivability, ultimate driver engagement. Obviously the price tag is high. That enables you to really work with technology and put that new technology into these vehicles. The fact you have two driver modes in the P1, the fact you have a comfort mode for road driving, the press of a button, the car lowers by 50 millimeters, the aerodynamics, the wing raises by 300 millimeters, and there you get a car focused for the track. We were sold out before a customer had actually driven the car. Independently, 3 OEMs decided performance hybrids were the right thing to do in the ultimate segment in this time period, which is quite incredible. I actually think each car is better because the other people were doing the same thing. This current batch of ultimate segment cars has been a great point in history. Yeah, I think the three manufacturers coming out together, presenting these cars is great. The question is, when are we going to get that next step? And it's probably going to be 8 to 10 years' time. It's going to be when we get that next batch of hypercars coming out. The question is, what is the technology? What is going to be the differentiator for those batch of cars?
One thing about hypercars is it's not only about the cars and the technology, and we can nerd out on them all we want, but it's really about the performance that people want to know about. Which one is faster than the other? The Nürburgring is basically the whole history of motorsports on one single road. I mean, it was built in the 20s in the Eifel Mountains. It's the most demanding racetrack in the world. It's 22 kilometers, 144 corners. It's the ultimate test of any car, really. I mean, because it tests every part of the car.
The Nürburgring is the only constant context of measurement capability of cars in the history of the automobile. It's the only place that manufacturers have gone consistently over time to test vehicles.
The Nürburgring is, of course, an amazing track in Germany, and that amazing in that it's long and it has an incredibly storied history. But it's become much more than that. It almost has become the soul of the auto enthusiast. It is one of the last tracks that's truly dangerous, that we still see commonly used. The curbs are really high, and you have to know which curbs you can hit and which you can't. It's going to unsettle the car very quickly. The tarmac is rougher in some sections than the others, so you want to have a suspension that is loose enough to take that, but stiff enough to keep the body, really level. There's sections of the track where you might have rain, and another section where it's sunny and warm. All of these things come together to make a single lap in the Nürburgring almost a race in and of itself. Some of it's video games, some of it is a self-fulfilling prophecy where certain manufacturers had success there and were touting the number, and then more would, and it became the benchmark.
They say Nürburgring tested, and you see the cars being tested there because there are people with video cameras just sort of hanging around the track on industry days. But what's happening now is that, people really want to know which of the hypercars is fastest.
We have 4 cars that are all competing with each other, with the LaFerrari, the P1, the 918, and now the 1-to-1. Everyone wants to say that their solution is the fastest thing around there, and right now the 918 is the only that's published a time.
So right now we know that Porsche is about at 7 minutes, right? So that's the time to beat. No hypercar maker wants to be slower than 7 minutes at this point. McLaren's out there now, and they haven't given a lap time yet, and everybody in the world is waiting for McLaren to say whether or not they beat Porsche. I mean, it's really created so much drama in the car world.